The offseason is fun for a few different reasons. A, because we know that there is some movement that's going to happen one way or another. Another reason why it's exciting is for some fans, it's the prospect of movement being potentially happening around their team, even though for some teams, movement's not going to happen. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a few of the players and the teams that could be seeing movement between the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Denver Nuggets, possibly the Boston Celtics, and even the Milwaukee Bucks. Some of these teams could be looking to move some of their star players or acquire star players. We're going to talk about what that means and how this offseason around the NBA could be a very fun one, even despite free agency not being the deepest. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, y'all? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for the channel. In exchange for that, I'll be delivering some of the best daily NBA content around the world. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We got to go to get into 10,000 subscribers. We're a little over 5.3 thousand, a little under 5.3 thousand away from getting to that point, but we can't get to it without you. About 65% of you guys that are watching the daily episodes are not subscribed to the channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into this. So we got a number of news items. Some come from Tim Bontemps to Mark Stein, all over the place, I should say, in regards to some movement we could see this offseason in the NBA. And so we're going to jump right into it, right? Number one, everybody's going to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, and reportedly, Giannis would like to go to either Boston or Miami. Now, there's already been some talk. Brian Windhorst has already basically shut down the talks of Giannis going to Boston at all. It does not seem like they are going to be interested in moving Jaylen Brown, and even if they are, talk about some teams that could be interested in getting down to that part of it, right? So here's the thing. When you look at real threats around Giannis Antetokounmpo, are the Celtics and the Heat real threats, or is this just another thing on the rumor cycle at this point that we are in the offseason, right? Let's talk about both sides of this. So for those that don't know, one of the things we do here at NBA Central, I talk about both sides of the argument. That way we cover all bases in the conversation, but I also want to hear from you guys. It's a living conversation. So reason why a team like Miami should be taken seriously in the case of Boston, right? Giannis reportedly views Miami as a compelling option because of the winning culture that they have established there. Now, one would say that Miami's offense kind of held it back a little bit. I also think being in the Eastern Conference reportedly is another reason why, Giannis is interested in. There's a much harder path to get to the finals when it comes down to it. Now, overall, I'll say this. Giannis is going to have a say in where he goes. There's just no other way around it. He's going to have a say in whatever he goes. I don't see Milwaukee and a player that has meant that much to the city doing him where they just trade him to wherever he wants to go. It just is what it is, right? But hearing that he does have interest in both the Celtics and the Heat, they both make sense because those are two teams that have good coaching. They have solid pieces around them. Yeah, they're going to have to give up some of those pieces to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo. But we do know, for example, that the Heat did pursue Giannis Antetokounmpo at the trade deadline, and that they are one of the teams that considered to have the most traction at that time in moving him. Reportedly, their deal was built around Khalil Ware, Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, and with their tradable first-round picks as well. And so there's that part of it that kind of makes sense. Now, we did hear as well that Boston had they did some precaution around Giannis and called maybe put out some fillers in regards to that at the trade deadline. But because they would realistically have to include Jaylen Brown in a trade, that seems like it's something that they're not going to be willing to. I talked about at the top of the show that Brian Windhorst actually dumped some cold water in regards to that. He said this: I know some people are linking him to Boston, but I have not heard that Giannis, Boston, and Milwaukee are serious about it. That's out there. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened, but I haven't heard it. Take what you will from Windhorst. Nobody, and this isn't a shot at Windhorst or anybody directly, but I think overall, you just have to, everything is speculation. I'm not saying that maybe Windhorst did or did not hear something, but sometimes the sources are incorrect, not necessarily the reporter, right? Here's the thing of why it's going to be harder for Giannis to end up in either Miami or Boston is that, simply put, financially and roster-wise, it's difficult, right? Boston is not likely to part without Jaylen Brown. So that counts them out right there. And Miami's offer, while it's a solid enough offer and it has some young players in there that have promise, Jaime Jaquez could have been sixth man of the year this year, it may not beat out other offers depending on the first-round picks. Yes, the Miami Heat have tradable first-round picks, but some other teams could have more tradable first on top of other teams first that can get him in there. It really has to decide. It comes down to Milwaukee and how much of a full reset that they want to do. We've heard that they prioritize getting an additional draft pick in this draft. They also want a young, promising talent to do that type of thing, and that's really what you have to look at. The rumor mill in this is going to be fun. It's going to be something that we see ebb and flow as the season goes on. I have no doubt about it that we're going to hear more on it in regards to it, but at the end of the day, I'll say this. Whether any team has the courage to pay the price for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and there are going to be a lot that are willing to pay for Giannis, wanting Giannis and then still having enough around Giannis after the trade could be two very different things, right? And that's a place like Boston. If Boston were to seriously consider moving Jaylen Brown for Giannis Antetokounmpo, which again, Brian Windhorst is saying is not there, I think that, what does it do there? Like, Jaylen Brown was playing at an MVP level at points this season. He just was, right? And, for a team that was missing Jason Tatum for a lot of it, the front court was never solid. Like, Jaylen Brown showed exactly what he can do. Now, of course, that would make him one of the more enticing, pieces in a potential Giannis trade for Milwaukee. But like flipping Giannis for Jaylen Brown when Jaylen has 3 more years under contract, where Giannis has 1 and he's going to need an extension soon. Jaylen Brown is solid defensively as well. I think he spaces the floor a little bit more than Giannis Antetokounmpo does. Giannis is still a very dominant two-way player, but I mean, when you look at it, Jaylen Brown has never played less than 60 games in the season. We have not seen that from Giannis in the last few years. So I just don't know if I did. I think Jaylen Brown's value is way too high. And if they are going to move Jaylen Brown, there are going to be way more teams that are interested in it. So I think Boston has itself to ask a question here, right? Even if you are looking at moving Jaylen Brown because of payroll, because of anything else, you want to break up some things, anything like that, what other teams could possibly be available that could get you either more pieces, better picks, or whatever it is? That's what you have to ask yourself. And reportedly, the Hawks, the Rockets, and the Blazers all have interest in Jaylen Brown if he becomes available. Now, that is a big if, right? We don't know what's going to happen there. He was second-team All-NBA this season, and the Celtics outperformed the expectations that a lot of people had for them, if they're being honest, coming into the season, right? Now, they had a 7-game elimination in the first round to the Philadelphia 76ers, which was disappointing, and that's the reality of it, and sometimes that forces you to make tough decisions in regards to it. But I think this, like, when you look at all the changes that happened with this team, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, Luke Kornet, all gone from that team, right? And then you had Jason Tatum also miss time with an Achilles tear. Do you not want to kind of see where you can go with this when you now know you're going to have Jason Tatum? I always said that no matter what happened with the Boston Celtics season, getting Jason Tatum back when they did, him having a playoff run, it just jump-started that rehab process and maybe helps him attack it even better at the start of the season. And for what it's worth, Jason Tatum looked really good at times last season as well, even after returning from that Achilles tear. So, of course, with the Hawks, the Rockets, and the Blazers all having a bunch of tradable first-round picks in regards to that one, and they could, I'm not going to say they can't create an enticing package for Jaylen Brown. I think when you look at it, like, what do the Boston Celtics want to do? They want to have a chance to completely reset, their market in regards to that. Like, when you look at the Hawks need a wing, and they could use a wing player to raise their ceiling, and Jaylen Brown may actually turn them into a contender in the West. The Rockets have the young assets. It makes some sense for them. They just acquired Kevin Durant before this season started. What happens with that one? It makes some sense. They probably have more first-round picks than Boston's going to get in any other place. And then the Blazers are interesting because I love the Blazers. I love their young pieces. Deni Avdija had a huge all-star season in regards to it as well. But does he speed things up a little too much for the Portland Trail Blazers? I think this. If Jaylen Brown does hit the market, which I think is an extremely big if in this case, that I think that there are going to be some teams that are aggressive, and I think you can get things that help you more now in the now and the future, maybe than just Giannis Antetokounmpo. So that's why I don't like the linking of those two things being together personally, but we'll see. Like, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think that the Boston Celtics could legitimately make Jaylen Brown available this offseason? There's just, again, another rumor mill thing. But with that said, let's talk about a player in Dosunmu, who is a former Chicago Bull, was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, had an amazing playoff run, and there's been some talk now that the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to do what it takes to try to create an opportunity in space to keep Dosunmu. Go so much that Tim Bontemps said this: Minnesota simply cannot afford to let Dosunmu walk. That's why sources around the league expect he will be back with the Wolves, but for the price slightly above the mid-level exception, which is $15 million, which is what most rival teams could offer. Doing so might require Minnesota to move off DiVincenzo, who will miss at least most of the next season with torn right Achilles, to avoid going into the second tax apron. Now, let's talk about this, right? Dosunmu is young, he's productive, he's efficient at what he does, and he has already shown he is ready to step into a bigger role. And if Minnesota believes in this future, they need to double down on that. So the question here comes down to is it worth weakening your depth to keep Dosunmu? And the side of this of saying no. Let's start with the no side. I usually start on the yes side. Let's start on the no side. DiVincenzo has been extremely valuable to this team when he's healthy. And I think that when you look at moving valuable players just to manage the tax and it hurts the team depth, they already saw that with Nickeil Alexander-Walker leaving, and look at what he turned into for that Atlanta Hawks team, averaging 20 points per game, right? So if Minnesota is trying to stay in the title mix, can they afford to give that up and move off Donte DiVincenzo? The other side of this is you're not going to get much out of that depth this season because he's going to miss most, if not all of next season because of, the Achilles tear. And that's just the reality of it. And so if you're going to have to make any type of cost-saving measures to keep a player like Donte DiVincenzo, which next year is the last year on his deal anyway, right? It'd be different if you had Donte DiVincenzo still locked up for 3 or 4 years, something like that. It's the last year of his deal. So you're not going to get much out of that depth anyway because of the injury. And so because of that, I think that because he's younger than Donte DiVincenzo, he's just as productive, a better defensive player, all that type of stuff, still a really good passer, one-man fast break, and really their only other on-ball creator that was effective in the playoffs because Julius Randle had a bad playoff postseason. You got to look at that. And I think already hearing that they could be interested in moving Rudy or moving another player plays a part into that as well. The fact of the matter is that in the NBA, good teams aren't just able to keep everybody that they want. They have to get who they can and what they can afford, and that's the reality of it. And so if they need to move off of Donte DiVincenzo to offer Dosunmu more than the mid-level exception, I think that he's worth it considering the situation of where Donte DiVincenzo is. But let me know what you guys feel and how you think on that one down below. With that said, the Nuggets are facing the same problem that teams face and a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves are facing. And that's the question of, should Denver pay to keep Peyton Watson or move a bigger piece to protect flexibility, right? And here's the thing. The conversation that's made of this is that should the Denver Nuggets be being quote-unquote cheap? They're spending way more money than I would ever spend in my life. To just pay the tax to keep the team together. And that's what comes from Tim Bontemps, who said this, right? We know that how the Cronkies operate. They could easily just pay him and pay the tax, but we know how the Cronkies operate. That means sending out either Johnson or Braun, and I don't know where that lands. The injury stuff is a concern, but so is how they struggled without him. So let's talk about the Peyton Watson of it all, right? This is a player that had a career year last year, that you drafted, right? That developed there. And so the question isn't about keeping Watson or not, right? The question is keeping Watson or moving another player to pay the tax? Either way, they're going to keep Watson, right? And so Watson is young. He had a breakout season last year, defense that he brings, enough offense as well, and he's the type of player that contenders love to keep on their team. But the side that they have to move the salary and they cannot pay the taxes, just simply put, the owners are not willing to pay it. Now, I don't know if they move off a player like Christian Braun to get that done, but you have Cam Johnson. Aaron Gordon is another name that's been mentioned, but then again, Aaron Gordon has been so important for them as a role player for them. I think that, they have to be part of the larger financial conversation there. But Peyton Watson is not a player you can just let go in restricted free agency. Now, if ultimately Peyton Watson signs an offer sheet or whatever else, you can try to work out a sign and trade. It can be something like that. But I think just this is that the Denver Nuggets have to ask themselves a tough question, and they've been in this position before where they let depth go because they didn't want to pay the tax, and then it took them years to recover that. Even Christian Braun, as a player that's only 25, that averaged 12 points per game with 5 rebounds and almost 3 assists, is that just a player that you can just let go? Cam Johnson, he's kind of the easier guy there that people will look, but he even still averaged 12 points. He shot the ball like crap for the majority of the season, but he finished the season strong in the playoffs, a 27-point effort in the last game of the playoffs against him where he averaged 14 points in that series. So you just have to look at all the things that are involved with Cam Johnson as well. But the Denver Nuggets can't keep letting depth go and then trying to replenish that depth later because eventually you just run out of time and then you got risk a player like Jokic getting pissed off about it. So if I know it's not my money, and fans of the Denver Nuggets, please do not be afraid to sound off, but why not just pay the tax, run it back, and see where you're going to go with it? But then at the same time, I guess you're looking at the Spurs and the OKC Thunder, and you have to ask yourself, are we still able to compete with that? And that's a question that you have to ask here. Last topic of the day before we get out of here, I'm going to get this one over with quick. LeBron James, the Los Angeles Lakers. The report is that the Los Angeles Lakers, or LeBron and his team, are wanting the Los Angeles Lakers to wait on the Los Angeles Lakers to come and present an option for him to return to the Lakers. And here's the thing. My point of this is that the Lakers have to be smart about their business. They need to build this team around Luka. Every year that goes by that they don't focus on building around Luka is a wasted year while they have Luka Doncic there. Now, is Luka ever going to leave the Lakers? We don't know. People tend to like the Lakers, and we know they're going to pay for their stars. But at the same time, like LeBron, all we heard last offseason is that everything that they were doing was to build around Luka. That binder that Rob Pelinka used to set down with LeBron and go over, he set down that with Luka. You have Luka now for 2 more years before his player option in 28-29. That's it. You have to make a decision on Austin Reeves probably this offseason that's going to opt out. To me, the focus needs to be first around building around Luka. It needs to be around building around Luka. And I'll go so far as to say this. You may even have to get to a point to where you just opt out of the bird rights of LeBron James and then don't even worry about it, so you can use that cap space to actually continue to build around Luka. And, you want to be respectful in it, of course, because what LeBron has done, he brought a title to that and stuff, but you cannot allow LeBron to freeze your offseason. That's just my opinion on it. Yeah, LeBron has had the right to go out the way that he wants to go out and all that type of stuff, but to me, if LeBron wants to come back for the Lakers, it has to be at a discount, and I don't know if he's going to do that. So I think this is less about whether the Lakers want to bring LeBron back or not, and more about whether can they build the right team around Luka while LeBron is still there. And that's a question that I don't think the answer is favorable to, but you guys can let me know how you feel down below. That's going to do it for today's episode. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys sound off in the comment section on all the topics down below and what you think these teams should do, especially if they're your favorite teams. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything NBA and basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Break Media.